Hola, buenos días, bienvenidos a mi clase de español de hoy. Casi en directo. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Yo estoy muy bien. ¿Y tú qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Bueno, episodio 1. Vamos a hablar de future study and work. Okay, so it's a new topic area, this, guys. This is the workout video. So I've explained to you in episode 0, that each episode will have two videos. One is a workout video, which is basically us using the language, okay? And I will also put an accompanying grammar video to each episode. So that will follow. So there'll be two videos to each episode. So, moving straight on, what I'd like you to do is just have a think now, pause me in a second, and have a look at the text that I've put at the top here. It's actually a response or a general response that somebody could make to the question, do you have a part-time job? Okay, so which is a question that you are very likely to be asked in the GCSE. So, it says here, read and try to understand the Spanish. Okay, you might not be able to understand every single word, but can you understand the general meaning of this particular text? And I'm assuming, because this is aimed at year 10s, that you will already have quite a lot of prior knowledge. So what I'd like you to do is ask yourselves, what type of work is trabajo a tiempo parcial? That appears here in the text. Can you guess the meaning of tareas domésticas? Okay, think about an English word maybe that will give you a clue there. And which short two-word phrase means I have to? Okay, so read through this. Can you answer those 3 points there? Pause me, come back to me, and we'll answer those questions together. Okay, so I'm going to translate this for you, and you can check how your understanding matches with the Spanish. So ahora now, no tengo un trabajo a tiempo parcial. No tengo, I don't have, un trabajo, a job, a tiempo parcial means part-time. So what type of work is trabajo a tiempo parcial? Tiempo parcial, part-time. Tiempo means time in Spanish, so it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? It means time partial, literally. So, yeah, part-time, that's logical, it makes sense. And just to remind you that tiempo also means weather in Spanish as well, as in thunder and lightning, sunshine, that type of weather. So tiempo can mean time, and it can mean weather. Sin embargo, however, tengo que hacer. Now this is quite important, what I'm going to tell you now. Tengo que means I have to. Hacer is a really key verb as well, is the verb to do, or to make actually. It means both of those things. So when you say tengo que hacer, what you're saying is I have to do. And this construction with the verb tener, which is to have, and it's to have in the sense of to possess something. So I have 2 dogs, I have a brother and a sister, I have a new car, I have a large house in the country, whatever it is. Tener is the verb to have, as in to possess, and tengo is I have. It's the I form in the present tense. When you add que to it like this, it becomes have to do something. Tengo que. If I wanted to say I have to speak, and speak is hablar, Hablar, I would say tengo que hablar. If I wanted to say I have to eat, tengo que comer, for example. Okay? So, tengo que hacer, I have to do varias tareas domésticas en casa. Various tareas domésticas. So domesticas is like our English word domestic, which means kind of household or to do with the house. So tareas domésticas means household tasks or household chores. En casa, literally in house, but it probably is often better translated as at home. Okay, at home. Me da igual, ya que. So me da igual, this really nice expression which means I don't mind. Okay, or literally me da igual means it gives me equal, which is a very strange thing to say, isn't it? Me da igual, I don't mind, ya que. And ya que is the same as porque, Porque, and it means because. It could also translate as in this sense. So I don't mind, ya que, as, para mí, for me, es importante ayudar en casa. It is important ayudar, to help, en casa, at home or in the house. Okay, so that's the meaning of that particular little text. So just to remind you that each episode will focus on a generic response to a GCSE question around the topic of future study and work. Generic, if you don't know, means general. So we're not personalising our answers at the moment. What I'm doing is I'm giving you general answers that you could give, and then later on, when we prepare more for our actual GCSE orals and writing exam, we can adapt the text slightly to fit with what's true for you. So at the moment we're just working with general texts for everybody. So question 1 in the GCSE might be, do you have a part-time job now? What do you do? ¿Tienes un trabajo a tiempo parcial ahora? ¿Qué haces? Okay, ¿qué haces? ¿Qué haces? What, literally what you do. What you do. Okay. Tienes, you have. Un trabajo a tiempo parcial. All of that means a job part-time. Okay. A tiempo parcial, part-time. Ahora, now. Okay. You have a part-time job now. ¿Qué haces? What you do. What do you do? So I want to tell you now, guys, clearly what, if you like, the signs are that you've succeeded in this episode. How will I know I've successfully completed episode 1 or episode 2 or episode 3? Okay, the answer is a simple one. Here's 2 generic responses to the question, do you have a part-time job now? The top one is for people who don't have a part-time job now, and that will be many of you, because from previous years' experience, these days a lot of young people don't have part-time jobs, and that might be because, it's probably because part-time jobs are harder to come by. And also, I think maybe in some ways you guys are very focused these days on your GCSEs and doing well, and therefore perhaps less likely to be distracted by doing part-time jobs for money. I don't really know. So the top text or the top response is for people who don't have a part-time job, and the bottom one is an example of what you might say if you've got a part-time job. Okay, and to know whether you've succeeded in what I want you to do in episode 1, you need to ask yourself at the end of all this and through practice, can I look at this text or this response in English and literally on site, fluently, without hesitation, translate that into Spanish? And if you can, you know you've got there. And the next thing that I want to do is show you how we're going to do that. Okay, so here's the Spanish. At this stage, I don't want you to worry about that because we're going to work through it together, and I'm going to show you later on, actually, in this video, how to go about learning this. Now, it helps, obviously, to understand some of the language and the vocabulary that you need in order to answer this question. We're going to look at specific vocabulary later, but here is some more general stuff that I want to remind you about. So here's that same text, that we've just looked at, or the same response. It's the top one of the two, this one. Now I do not have a part-time job. So, another little task for you. Put me on pause in a second, but I'd like you to look at the yellow highlighted phrases in the Spanish here. How could you swap in the following words without changing the meaning? So I've given you pero, porque, de momento, pienso que. And you might need to do a bit of guesswork, but the idea with this is to give you options for saying the same thing in your Spanish so that you get more marks in the exam. So 4 Spanish words highlighted in yellow here in the text. How would you match them, if you like, if you were to swap those yellow words for the 4 words below here without changing the meaning? Put me on pause. Come back when you think you've got the answers. Okay, so ahora means now. Okay, if you wanted to switch something in which had a similar meaning, you could put de momento in there, which means at the moment. De momento, or now. No tengo un trabajo a tiempo parcial. I don't have a part-time job. Sin embargo is your linking word for however. You could switch that out for the word pero, which means but. There's no change of meaning if you think about it. It wouldn't make any difference if we said, now I do not have a part-time job, but, or however, tengo que hacer, I have to. Remember, tengo que, I have to. Tengo que hacer, to do, various household chores at home. The next bit, me da igual, ya que para mí. So, ya que, I explained to you actually not long ago that ya que is exactly the same as porque. It means because or as in the sense of because. And para mí, you could easily switch out for pienso que, because para mí is for me when you're giving an opinion about something, and pienso que means I think that. So we could switch those around without any change of meaning. So me da igual, I don't mind, ya que, as, para mí, for me, es importante ayudar en casa. It is important to help. Ayudar, think about aid maybe. Aid, help. Ayudar en casa. You could equally say, I don't mind because, porque, I think that, pienso que, it is important to help in the home. So you've got 2 ways of saying the same thing here, expanding your vocabulary and your connecting type words in Spanish. Okay. So here's the alternative response that some of you will give, and that is that yes, I do have a part-time job at the moment. So again, I'd like you to put me on pause, read this English, and think to yourselves at this stage, how many of these words do I know? And the answer might be not many. But again, just have a quick look and a think about that language. How much of this could I translate into Spanish? Do I know how to say restaurant? Do I know how to say in addition? Do I now know how to say I have to do? Can we remember that from before? Possibly. So pause me, come back in a second. Okay, so I'm not going to go through this just yet, but I'm going to give you some helpful words and phrases now. So here is some useful vocabulary that you might not know. If you want to say currently, you can use actualmente. And I'm going to remind you of something that I've probably told you before, and that is the ending in Spanish, mente, means it's like the English ly ending. So if I said, for example, rápidamente in Spanish, what I'm saying is quickly. Rápido is fast or quick. Rápidamente, quickly. If I wanted to say easily in Spanish, the word for, or the adjective easy is fácil or fácil. So if I want to say easily, it's fácilmente. So this mente ending is like an ly ending in English. And this is actually a bit of a false friend, this word, because you think actualmente probably means actually, but it doesn't. Actualmente is the word for currently or now kind of thing. Actualmente. You could equally use de momento, which means at the moment, or you can use ahora, now. So 3 ways of talking about the here and now. Currently, at the moment, and now. Actualmente, de momento, ahora. Okay? Next word, trabajo. Now, trabajo means lots of things depending on the context. It can be a noun, okay? It can be a thing. So, trabajo is the word for a job. Un trabajo is a job. Un trabajo. It's also the word for work. So, we saw, didn't we? Trabajo a tiempo parcial is part-time work, but it could also be translated as a part-time job. Un trabajo a tiempo parcial. And finally, just to confuse things even more, we have trabajo as the verb I work. I work. So you have to be quite careful of that. Trabajo, I work. Next, como is the word for as in the sense of like. Okay, so I work as a waiter in a local restaurant. You would need como. Trabajo como. I work as. Trabajo como. And we have to be really careful, don't we, when we translate things, because as has all sorts of meanings in English. We saw earlier the word ya que, meaning because. Now, if you think carefully about this, that if we could also use the word as in English, meaning because. Okay, I like going to Spain on holiday as it's hot and sunny. Now that as has the same meaning as because in Spanish. So we need to understand with words like as what it is we're trying to say. Here, as means such as, like, as. It's a different meaning for that word. So we have to be aware of, or start to be aware of these little difficulties when we translate. Next, camarero, camarera. Camarero, waiter. Camarera, waitress. Okay, and if you've been following the self, family and friends stuff, we will now know that with nouns, and we're talking about nouns here, things, people, places, an O ending is indicative of a boy masculine thing, a male thing, and an A is the female version, if you like. Camarero, camarera. Another really nice expression to use is if you want to say local in Spanish, you can use the words del barrio, where barrio is an area in a town typically, or a city, an area of a town or a city. So if you wanted to say about Hastings, for example, the old town, the old area, you would say el barrio antiguo, the antiquated area, el barrio antiguo. But you can also use this expression del barrio, which literally means of the area, to mean local. So un restaurante del barrio, a local restaurant. And finally, the word for in addition is además. We should know that. And you can also use también, which means also. So además, in addition, también, also. So having gone through all that, I wonder now whether you could actually have a better attempt at remembering some of those words. So just have a look at that. Again, put me on pause. How many of the words that I've gone through with you can you remember now? Okay, so I'm going to show you how to practice this language in a bit of detail anyway. Here's a slightly, in fact, that's just the Spanish, that is the Spanish equivalent now of the text we've just been looking at. Actualmente, or de momento, if you wanted to say at the moment, Tengo un trabajo a tiempo parcial. I have a part-time job. Trabajo como camarero en un restaurante. I work as como waiter or a waiter, camarero en un restaurante del barrio, of the area. Además, in addition, tengo que hacer varias tareas domésticas en casa. We're hopefully getting used to this tengo que thing here. Tengo que, I have to, hacer, do. I have to do. So, just by the same token, here's a slightly different take on the same kind of response, but this time we're saying that we work as a sales assistant in a clothes shop. So again, pause me. How much of this can you remember? You probably won't know the words for sales assistant, but you might remember the word for a clothes shop. We may well have looked at that. Could you translate any of that now? So I'll pause you, come back. So, at the moment, de momento or actualmente, currently, I have a part-time job. Tengo, I have, un trabajo, a job, a tiempo parcial, at part-time. I work as a sales assistant in a clothes shop. So I work, trabajo, como, as. Trabajo como. And then the word for a sales assistant is un dependiente. Dependiente. It's like our word dependent. So you might want to think of a way of remembering that as maybe when you go into a shop, you're dependent on the sales assistant to help you. That might be a way of remembering it. Dependiente. Dependiente. In a clothes shop, well, a shop is una tienda. Una tienda. And if you want to specify a clothes shop, you will say de ropa, where ropa is clothes. So you would say una tienda de ropa. A shop of clothes is how they say it in Spanish. Una tienda de ropa. Also, or in addition, so you could say también or además, I have to do, tengo que hacer, various housework or household tasks at home, varias tareas domésticas en casa. And I've just shown you the key language here again. So you've got dependiente, shop assistant, una tienda de ropa, a clothes shop, también, also or as well, but we saw as well in addition, didn't we? So that looks like this, además. Okay, so that's what that looks like in Spanish. De momento, at the moment, tengo un trabajo a tiempo parcial. I have a part-time job. Trabajo como, I work as, dependiente en una tienda de ropa, a sales assistant or a shop assistant in a clothes shop. También, also, tengo que hacer varias tareas domésticas en casa. So it's worth noting at this point, guys, what I was telling you about the word trabajo. It can be a noun. So here it's acting as a noun. I have un trabajo, a job. So that's a noun, isn't it? It's a thing. A tiempo parcial, part-time. But here, trabajo is the verb, and it's in the I form, present tense. I work, trabajo. So you have to be very careful when you translate this. So trabajo como dependiente, I work as a sales assistant. Okay. At this stage, guys, I just want to very quickly remind you of the goal and the resources that I've put in place. So future study and work, the type of questions and content. In fact, I'm going to skip that because I've done that in episode 0, but I do perhaps want to remind you more about the resources that I've put in place for you. You've got these videos, and each episode will have 2 videos, a grammar episode, which I will put together shortly for this episode 1, and a workout, which is what we're doing now, which is actively looking at the language and thinking about how we can use it. There's a booklet or a vocabulary list, which I've already posted up as an attachment for you and sent out to you. And there's the memorize set that accompanies this. Okay. Finally, and perhaps in some ways most importantly and most effectively, there are some just very short audio recordings that I'm making, and something called a talk prompt sheet based on these generic responses. So what does all that mean? You have got a PowerPoint attached, and I will put the link in this video as well under the description. So when you go to YouTube and you watch this video, you look underneath, you'll see some links. So if you haven't already picked these audios up from class charts, because I've sent them out via class charts, you can get them that way. So how am I going to practice this language? This is how you're going to do it. You are going to have this PowerPoint slide and the next one as well as a tool to practice. So now I do not have. How do I say that in Spanish? I try and remember. I've got a clue here. These are the first letters of the words in Spanish that I would need to say this. Now I do not have. And it will go, and look at these arrow things. So if you're on a laptop or a PC and a normal keyboard, you can use the arrows to go up and down. So I'm doing that now. You can make the Spanish appear and disappear. Okay, so now I do not have is ahora no tengo. And there you go, A-N-T, ahora no tengo. So you can practice that and try and recall that language until you get it perfect. And you would need to use audio number 1 in conjunction with this, where you plug yourself in. Hopefully you've maybe got the audios on your mobile phone, and you will hear the audio with me going, now I do not have. I will pause and then I will give you the Spanish. Ahora no tengo. So you could actually just use the audios on their own. Even if you didn't have these slides and these words in front of you, you can practice on the bus, in a queue, if you're queuing for something, wherever. If you've got your mobile phone and you want to practice being brilliant at your Spanish, you can do that using these audios. It's even more perhaps effective, particularly initially, if you've got this in front of you. Okay, that's audio number 1 for episode 1. And then and that, by the way, is the sort of response, generic response that you might give if you don't have a part-time job. Okay, now I do not have a part-time job, however, I have to do various household tasks at home. I don't mind, as or because for me it's important to help at home. Audio number 2 is to do with the sort of thing you might say if you do have a part-time job, and obviously the chances are you don't work as a waiter or a waitress in a local restaurant, or as a shop assistant in a clothes shop. If you do, that's extremely lucky. But the idea is it's the generic response. It's me giving you the general language that you would need to answer these questions. We can tweak this later, and let's say, for example, you have got a part-time job helping out a local builder on Saturdays. Okay, I can give you the language to say that later on, so we can personalize things later. Exactly the same deal. You can make the Spanish appear like this and disappear. So currently, at the moment, what we need to remember there are the words actualmente or de momento. 2 ways of saying much the same thing. Actualmente, currently, de momento, at the moment. And you can also use the word for now in Spanish, which is ahora. Okay, all interchangeable here. I have a part-time job. So you're looking at this thinking, oh, I've got 6 Spanish words I've got to come up with here. I have a part-time job. Tengo un trabajo a tiempo parcial. And you can check your answer. Here it is. Tengo un trabajo a tiempo parcial. Okay? Make sure you use the audios in conjunction with it, because they'll really help you a lot. The great thing about listening to the audios as well, everybody, is that your pronunciation is going to be absolutely spot on. It really will be. Okay, so this is your task. Can I, using all of these different resources I've put together for you, translate these 2 generic responses into Spanish fluently, without hesitation, with a really nice accent, good pronunciation and all the rest of it? And if you can, you've succeeded in episode 1. Right, last things last, I will look out in the YouTube video at the bottom here under where it says Mr. Vincent, look out for any links to things, because I will put any resources that you need links in under here for you, okay? A reminder again about Memrise. All of the language that you need is in 8 levels under RV SPAN Future Study and Work, and that's mirrored in the vocabulary sets that I've given you a print of as well. So that's that, and that really is the end of that PowerPoint. I hope that's been useful. If you follow those instructions, you will succeed spectacularly with these questions. So good luck, buena suerte, hasta luego, adios.